Another thing you can do with whitelist is select an item slot type. So this is useful for like quest turn-in items. You know, if you have a quest item that you can turn in for a neck piece, for example, you can select necklace here and add the item. And normally, since it's a quest item, when it shows up here, it's not going to know what current item slot exists, since it's just a quest item. There is no item slot. But if you set it as one here, then it will recognize, okay, this auction is for a neck piece, so I'm going to show the neck slot here, and the pop-out will also show necklaces. So just another slight feature there. Loot Council, this is a list of members that are in your Loot Council. So if you use the Loot Council method, you'll want everyone that is potentially in your raids to be listed here. So you can see Cold Dawn, the Druid, is a valid Loot Council member. So when an item is created, he is one of the valid 2 people in the raid that can vote. If I delete his name and create an auction, now he's no longer a valid Loot Council member. So on his side, he will not have a vote button anymore. So you can just mess with who's valid Loot Council member here. And lastly, I think I mentioned this is the raid zone list. So by default, these are all the raid zones, but of course you can add more or add some in the future. And anytime you zone into one of these zones as a raid leader, it will recognize that zone from the list and prompt you if you want to start tracking the raid. Okay, so let's move on to the options for client users, people that are just using this as non-raid leaders. These options are also useful for the raid leader. They basically just control a little bit about the interface and how kAuction works. So if you go to bidding, there's just one option here to auto-populate the current item slot. So as mentioned, when you create an auction, you get this mouse over and this current item is automatically populated with whatever item matches the slot. So for me, it's the main hand weapon. But if I uncheck auto-populate, then create that again. Now it's empty, so it doesn't automatically enter that. So this is good if you just want to remind yourself to actually manually select what item would be valid for you. Events. There are 3 types of events. Auction received, when an auction winner is received, and then when you yourself as the player win an auction. So these events can be modified so various effects will happen. So auction received events, this is one exception where the raid leader doesn't see this because they're basically creating the auction, so there's kind of no reason for them. But client users, if they have these set up, they'll see like the screen shake, they'll see a message in their chat window, and there'll be a sound that will play. You can select from a wide list here. Obviously you won't hear it probably in this video. But I'm going to go ahead and show, let's see, let's select flash and no message. So now when I win an auction, I'll go ahead and make one here. So when this auction ends and I'm announced as the winner, instead of normally shaking the screen as it has been doing and showing a message, I'll just see a flash and I'll get a sound that you won't actually hear. So there you go, there's the flash, no message. So you can just modify the event, determine how alert you want to be when an event happens. And interface, there's 2 frames really to mess with. The main frame is this main auctions frame that you spend most of the time looking at. So this option here, auto remove auctions, this is mostly for client users. Raid users can check it, but it won't do anything. Or excuse me, raid leaders. But if you have this checked, then anytime an auction is closed after it expires, plus this delay here in seconds, that auction will automatically close, as if you had manually clicked the X button there. So this is just a quality of life option. A lot of raid members in our raids will have this checked, and that way when new auctions are created they can look through it, see if there's anything they want to bid on or whatnot. But if not, they can just ignore it, and after a while it will close for them automatically. Bar settings, you can mess with the actual bar that counts down when an auction is counting, so this red bar, so you can change the color or opacity or whatever if you want. You can change the width, as I mentioned before. You can drag it here or you can change it here manually. Height is static, as I also mentioned. You can change the selection bar, so when you mouse over or select something, the color of that, the opacity. You can change the font to a number of fonts and the size. Tab settings are for the tabs that are created when you're looking at the details of an auction, the bids. So you can see this is the highlighted color, this is selected color, and then there's the inactive color. So you can mess with those. Current item selection pop-out check frequency. You really don't have to mess with that. What that is it's sort of a hack because of the way the WoW UI system works, but in essence this pop-out can sometimes disappear if you aren't hovering your mouse over an icon, but if you're between the frames, so it disappears there. And that's just because, like I said, the way the system works, it has to check every certain amount of time whether your mouse is actually over a valid frame or not, and if it's not, it will disappear. So that's one of those bugs that I just really can't get rid of. It's too much effort. So if that happens to you, you just have to deal with it and try to move your mouse in chunks to hit the icons and not land between them. And then scale, this is something I messed with before. You can just change the scale of the entire window. Usually you want this at 1, but for the video it's kind of tiny, so you can see it's higher. Bids frame, there's only a couple options here, mostly the font. So if you want to specify a different font for this bids frame when you're looking at a particular auction, then you can change it here. Modules, you can ignore that, really. These are custom modules that we used for various things, and they don't really have to do with the kAuction mod. And wishlist, there's a video that deals with the wishlist system and the wait system, so I won't explain that here. So really that's really how kAuction is used. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to come onto our forums, post in the thread about this video. They're at voximmortalis.com, and I will try to help you out. And if you notice any bugs, feel free to report them. I'll try to get them fixed. Otherwise, that's it. Thanks for watching.